All right, let's dive into a scientific detective story. The victim can't talk, the clues are literally invisible, and the crime scene, it's at the molecular level. We're talking about how to decode stress in fish.
So think about it for a second. It sounds like a simple question, but it's actually incredibly tricky. A fish can't tell you if it's too hot, or if it's too crowded, or if the water's just bad. So how on earth are we supposed to know what's really going on with them?
Well, the answer, and this is pretty wild, is hidden deep inside the fish itself. While they can't speak our language, their bodies are talking all the time through the language of genetics. Every single cell is reacting to the world around it, and those reactions leave behind a trail of evidence. And figuring out how to read that evidence has never been more critical. I mean, with water temperatures on the rise and the huge demands of modern fish farming, what we call aquaculture, understanding and, more importantly, preventing fish stress is absolutely vital for both conservation and our food supply.
You know, for a long time, scientists had to rely on something called the cortisol test. Cortisol is a general stress hormone, but the problem is it's just not that reliable. Sometimes the levels shoot up and stay there, other times they go right back to normal even while the fish is still super stressed. The new way, though, is to listen directly to the genes. It's like getting a live report straight from the cells on the front lines. It's way more precise.
So, how does this whole genetic investigation actually work? Well, imagine you have access to this massive library, and every single book in it is a potential clue to what a fish is going through. That's pretty much what scientists were working with here.
And when I say massive, I really mean it. When researchers exposed rainbow trout to 5 different kinds of stress, things like high heat and bad water, they found that over 21,000 different genetic clues were either switched on or switched off. That is just a staggering amount of data to sort through.
So what do we even mean by a genetic clue? Okay, think of it like a little memo or a transcript that gets sent from a gene out to the cell. It's a specific instruction, like, hey, we need more protective proteins over here, stat, or shut down all non-essential operations right now.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Each type of stress created its own unique genetic crime scene. Heat stress, for example, triggered this huge response, over 12,000 unique clues. But something like crowding, a much, much smaller genetic footprint. This specificity, this detail, is the key that basically changes the whole story.
Okay, so with tens of thousands of clues from all these different crime scenes, you can't just send in a human detective with a magnifying glass. No way. You need a super sleuth, a tool that can see patterns that no human ever could. So for this case, they called in the digital detective, machine learning. The AI detective's method is pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, it sifts through all that messy genetic data. Step 2, it starts to learn and recognize the unique signature, the specific pattern, for each type of stress. And finally, Step 3, it uses everything it learned to build a model that can look at a totally new fish's genes and predict exactly what kind of stress it's under.
At first, the investigators chased what seemed like the most obvious lead. They were on the hunt for a single universal key, a set of genes that could unlock the mystery of any kind of stress. But this turned out to be the biggest red herring of the entire case. They found 39 of these genetic clues that were active across every single one of the 5 stress conditions. I mean, this had to be it, right? These 39 core genes looked like the perfect suspects, the master key for detecting all kinds of stress. It was a perfectly logical hypothesis. If these genes react every single time, no matter what the cause is, then surely they must be the most reliable indicators. So the researchers pointed their digital detective to focus only on these 39 clues. And here is the plot twist. The result was a spectacular failure. Using just those 39 so-called universal genes, the AI could only predict stress with about 53% accuracy. That is barely better than just flipping a coin. The master key was a myth. The first big lead went completely cold. But you know, sometimes failure is exactly what leads to the biggest breakthrough. So instead of trying to solve every crime at once, the scientists decided to focus their entire investigation on just a single case, the 12,000-plus clues related specifically to heat stress.
Their new hypothesis was simple, but it was powerful. Maybe the secret isn't finding one key that fits all the locks. Maybe you need a specific key for each individual lock. It was time to ditch the search for a universal marker and really lean into specificity.
And wow, the power of this new approach was obvious right away. As soon as the AI detective focused only on heat stress, its accuracy just skyrocketed. With the top 234 genetic clues, it could identify heat-stressed fish with an incredible 98.6% accuracy. The case was suddenly cracked wide open.
But the investigation wasn't over. The digital detective kept refining its search, narrowing down that list of suspects from thousands to hundreds to dozens, until finally it found the true smoking gun.
And get this, from a pool of over 12,000 clues, it all came down to just two. Two genes that, when you look at them together, could act as a nearly perfect biomarker for telling if a rainbow trout was suffering from heat stress. So let's meet the two heroes of our story. First up, you've got HSP47. You can think of this one as the cell chaperone. Its main job is to protect collagen and basically keep the fish's muscles from falling apart when things get too hot. The second one is HSPA4L, the protein refolder. This one is like the emergency responder that rushes in to fix other proteins that get damaged by the stress.
And this right here is the final piece of evidence. Using only those two genes, the AI models could predict heat stress with up to 98.6% accuracy. It's an absolute game changer, a simple, elegant, and incredibly powerful tool. Now, this isn't just some fascinating science experiment. As the study's own authors conclude, this discovery gives us a real-world, practical framework for actually improving stress resilience in fish.
The impact of this in the real world is crystal clear. We now have a tool to help fish farmers know when their stock is in danger. It can help conservationists monitor wild fish populations, and it can even be used in breeding programs to select for fish that are just naturally tougher when it comes to heat.
And that just leaves us with one last fascinating question. This whole investigation started with over 21,000 clues and ended with just two that told a perfectly clear story about heat. It just makes you wonder, what other complex secrets about health, disease, and the environment are locked away in the genetic code, just waiting for the right digital detective to come along and crack the case?